You're listening to the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
What it do, Marc Henry here on the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network. H-Town's podcast. Man, we got a great one for you. We're going to talk to Coach Stump from Atascocita after a big win a couple of weeks ago. They get ready for a big one this week as district play starts back over on that side of town, the east side of town, man. Atascocita's back in the building, balling. North Shore back in the building, Baldwin, C. King. All of those guys on that side of town are back after a big bye. We'll talk about some big games over there. And so a few big games around the H. Man, we're halfway through the season. Can you believe it? Let's put a pause on it right now. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, talk to Coach Stump, and then we'll talk about a few scores from the previous week and a couple of big games coming out in Week 5 right here on the Third Coast Gridiron. I am your host, Marc Henry.
Looking to boost your company's marketing? Look no further than Fresh Media Works. Podcasting is the best way to promote your brand and increase your customer base. You can create your own show, be a guest on other podcasts, or advertise on existing podcasts to reach a valuable audience. Don't wait. Start elevating your marketing game today with Fresh Media Works. Call now. 713-269-4620 or find us online at freshmediaworks.com/podcasting.
You've beaten 3 really good playoff teams going into a really competitive district. What does this do for you? You think this does for your team?
I mean, anytime you come out and play a 3-hour bus ride against a traditional great team like Westlake, and, we knew it was going to be a competitive game, right? And we really just focus on our performance and not the results, and we feel like if we perform well, we'll get the results we want. And, they have a winning streak here, and they don't lose here, so it's really, really good.
And what improvements did you see in your teams just from last week to this week?
Well, I think we got some turnovers. We got some turnovers on defense, and we didn't turn the ball over on offense, and that was big. And we got it lucky on that fumble run for a touchdown. That was a tight place in the game, but you make your own breaks, and so that's what happened.
And it was a big night for Carday leading the offense. What can you say about his growth and his performance?
Well, our principal, Will Falker, is the key. Hey, how you doing, man? Congratulations, Coach. He's a really good player, and he's not only that, he's a good leader, and he's got a lot of things he can improve on.
And, what can you say, about how do you think your defense performed tonight, especially for defensive line might be a little bit of a concern before the season, but how do you think they progressed?
Well, they're progressing, and I think playing people like this, really help you, right, in the long run, right? And, I think we got to do a good job of staying humble, and we got some sophomores out there on defense, and the plays they made on offense were against, the sophomores, so they'll learn from that, and they'll be better for it.
And your secondary, how impressive has their performance been?
They made the plays late. They gave up some plays, right? And that's what I'm saying. Those sophomores gave up some plays, but they made some plays. And so, it's a give and take, and hopefully they'll eliminate those other mistakes. But I think as a defense, to shut that team out in the second half is a great thing.
Coach, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Shout out to Coach Craig Stump and Atascocita. They're back in action this weekend. That was a big-time win down at Westlake. They're proving to be one of the better teams, man. I like what they're doing, man. They got a couple of big games coming up in the next few weeks that'll really be the telltale sign. But Coach Stump has those guys playing at a high level. Let's talk about a few scores around the H from last week. Shadow Creek over Manville, 43-20. Big game. Shout out to those guys. Cypress Lakes over Cypress Park, 40-14. Cypress Springs over Cypress Ranch, 31-16. Big victory. Ridge Point still rolling, 54-28 over Elkins. Fulshire went on the road and beat Burleson Centennial up in the DFW area. That's another notch. Man, Houston's been on Dallas this year, man. Can you say that louder? Big win, 63-27 over Burleson Centennial. Lamar gets back in the win column, 49-35 over Elsie. Great win by those guys. They played a really tough schedule at the beginning of the season. So, for them to come back and get a big win, that's saying something. Katy over Cinco Ranch, 52-7. Taylor over Morton, 17-14. That's a close game. Shout out to those guys for getting the dub. Klein over Klein Forest, 56-10. Collins over Magnolia West, 38-7. And that Klein district's going to be tough this year. So it's some really good ball being playing there. You got Klein Kane, of course, Klein Collins we just talked about. And Klein is playing well. So, Tomball Memorial is also in that district. So some big wins. Here, a few more scores we'll talk about here. Galena Park gets by Sterling, 20-18. Port Arthur Memorial over Cleburne, 63-7, man. I mean, you got to talk about that, man. Big shout out to those guys. We'll drop down to the 4A ranks, man, around the H, and then we'll wrap it up. Hampshire Finette 50-13 over Fort Bend Crawford. Let's go to HISD. Fur over Washington 42-16. Scarborough over Northside 24-7. Worthing gets by North Forest in a shootout 47-35. That's an interesting district. Some big games coming up over there in the next couple of weeks in that district, man. Shout out to HISD for balling out, man. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk a couple of big games this week. You got Randall, Iowa Colony. We're going to talk about that game and more. And listen, that's a big game. Some big players in that game. We're going to talk about that. I think that's probably a matchup that maybe people aren't looking at, but that's going to be a big one. We'll talk about that and more right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We'll be right back.
Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? It is the absolute best way to grow your brand, spread your message, and build your following. Fresh Media Works can help. We do all the heavy lifting, and you just focus on your message. To find out how easy we can make launching your new podcast, call 713-269-4620 or check us out at freshmediaworks.com.
Hey coaches, you may have already missed the boat on getting your own coaches show this season on Lone Star Gridiron, but did you know we're doing basketball shows this year? That's right. If you're a basketball coach and you want your own coaches show, we have a great business model that allows you or your booster club to make money from the show and at the same time promote your program, your kids, and all the amazing things happening with your basketball team. To find out how you can get your very own basketball coaches show, reach out to Chris at 713-269-4620.
All right, let's talk about a few big games around the H this week. We're kind of midway through the season. Some big matchups. Let's start. We talked about Atascocita. Coach Stump was on here just a brief moment ago at the beginning of the show. They take on C. King. That's a pretty good matchup. C. King's been a playoff team probably the last 3 or 4 years. They've taken Atascocita, to the wire a couple of years. This is a big game. And I think that, these guys know that they can play very well against them. They beat them 28-21 on last year. I think, with Corday Mack at the helm, they've had some stability at quarterback. I think that, Torrey Blaylock's going to be, a key piece in there. And then the pass catching of Broderick Malone is key. But I think C. King's going to play this one close. But I like what C. King brings to the table, but just don't know if they got enough to take down the Atascocita, man. Fulshear starting out 4-0, man. Big wins against Pearland, Fort Bend, Ridge Point. That was their only loss. It's that loss to Fulshire. That offense is phenomenal. They play a great brand of football, real power running game, and right now they're in the top of their district in 26A. I like what they're doing over there. They're a team that could give some people some problems when they get to the playoffs. They got a big one against A. Taylor. I expect them to win that one. But I mentioned Fulshire because they're on the roll. I think they got something. They're a team to watch over there. And I think that they have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. Katy takes on Seven Lakes. I don't see anything that's going to derail the Big Red Machine in that one. They should roll in that one. Should be a big game. Willis with the big victory over the Woodlands last week stays undefeated. They're playing well. They take on Cleveland, and then the Woodlands themselves, they're going to rebound this week. They take on Caney Creek. Hightower, they're playing Fort Bend Bush. Hey, that's not a not so fast, my friend type of game. Hightower needs to be, on their best game, and I think they will. Bridgeland takes on Langham Creek. That's a big game. I think Bridgeland's rolling as well. I like what they're doing. Listen, let's talk about Katy Jordan. Undefeated. They got one of the best backs in the H in Chad Gasper. Andrew Marsh is a Michigan commit. This is a team that's looking to that Katy game. They've been close the last couple of years. They got a couple of more weeks before they get there on October 18th. That's a big game coming up, but I think they roll as well. And they continue to be undefeated this week, and I think that they get that big victory going away. But I really like what they're doing over there. Keep an eye on those guys, man. I definitely think that they're doing some big things over there. Galveston Ball, shout out to my guy, Jonah Williams over there, Texas commit. They'll keep rolling, but they're one of the top teams in 5A Division I so far this year, undefeated. But let's talk about the big game before we get out of here, and that is Iowa Colony and Randall. Randall's undefeated, got one of the best players in the country in the 2027 class, Landon Williams Callis. If you hadn't seen this guy yet, he's worth the price of admission. Defensively, they got one of the best interior defensive linemen in the country in Chase Sims, the Texas A&M commit. Last week, they really, really bottled up and had bottled up the Fort Bend Marshall offensively, beat them 45-7. Now, slowing Fort Bend Marshall down, you know that they have a ton of speed always every year. They really shut these guys down. Now, Iowa Colony comes in with one of the highly touted offenses as well. But I think the difference in Randall this year is Keelan Sweeney. He's a guy that can really, really play. Stepped up last week in the quarterback's absence that normally starts, and he played well. He was the reason they had, some continuity offensively. They call him four-way because he can hit you from offense, defense, special teams. He can do it all. He could be the difference maker in this game. But I think let's talk about Iowa Colony a little bit before we get done. They got some guys over there that can play. Antoine Martin, Jacody Miles, Jarvis Solomon, just a couple of guys, man. They have a very, very good quarterback in their starting quarterback who threw for over 1,600 on 17 TDs as a freshman. He's a phenomenal player. He's a guy that you need to know about. White is his last name, and he's a standout at quarterback. You're going to know about this guy. But Martin's a guy that really paces those guys offensively. Johnson on the defensive side is a guy that you need to know about. But Carson White is going to be the difference, could be the difference in this game. 6'2", 195 pounds, can really sling it, he can throw it. This is a big-time game. We had a chance to catch up with Coach Randall from Randall High School, and he's excited about this game. His team, went on a deep playoff run as well as Iowa Colony went on a deep playoff run. Listen, this is for the district championship. That's why we're talking about this game early in the season. As a district championship game, this is what you want. Both of these teams are going to be playoff teams. A 5A Division II is going to be a tough gauntlet to get through around the state. But you can see these teams facing off again probably in the 4th or 5th round of the playoffs. They're just that good. But this is the de facto kind of district championship game. Looking at Iowa Colony's schedule, they played Crosby, which was a good team, Baytown Lee, Stratford, The rest of the way, they got Santa Fe, Lamar Consolidated. Now, Fort Bend Marshall could be a challenge. But, this is probably going to be the district championship. Whoever comes out of this one unscathed is the district champion for sure. So this is a game that we'll be definitely keeping an eye on. Man, this is worth the admission. So if you can pull up to this one, man, it might be worth your while. But that's all we got for you here at the TCG. Follow us on Twitter at Third Gridiron. You can follow us also on the LSG Network each week right here. H-Town's podcast, The Third Coast Gridiron. We'll get at you next week. We out.